Great Britain is an elderly gentleman in a flawlessly tailored, expensive suit, living in a massive ancient estate filled with portraits of illustrious ancestors. He is wealthy, refined, and damn polite. When he walks into a room, everyone goes silent. He smells of history, fine tobacco, and the confidence of a man who is used to giving orders. But if you stay in this house a little longer and listen closely when the silence hits, you'll hear the floorboards creaking. You'll notice that in the far corners of the estate, the roof has been leaking for years, and the safe that once held the gold of the entire planet now contains nothing but neatly stacked IOUs. Britain isn't poor. It's not stupid. It's just scared to death to admit that the world outside its window no longer belongs to it. Many confuse decline with destitution. But Britain isn't about being broke. It's about the disconnect. It's like being in first class, but the flight attendant hasn't brought a drink in 30 minutes, and there's strange smoke coming from the engine. You keep your back straight because that's how your father raised you, but inside there's a cold realization: the old rules are failing. Britain today is the wealthiest of the declining nations, desperately trying to save face while the ground disappears beneath its feet. To understand Britain, you have to understand its past. For centuries, it lived as a manager nation. Imagine spending your whole life as the CEO of the world's largest corporation. You didn't work with your hands, you worked with connections, authority, and the law. Britain built a navy to control the world's supply chains, not to watch sunsets. Colonies were ATMs that spat out easy cash just because the Union Jack was flying over them. This created a dangerous national habit. Britain became used to managing other people's labor rather than laboring itself. It became a nation of intermediaries. And here is the first knife into that myth. The country that once dictated tea prices to the entire world can no longer control the price of electricity in its own home. The psychology of the master remains, but the resources are gone. Britain still looks at Asia or the global south as wayward nephews, forgetting that the nephews have long since grown up, made their own trillions, and bought houses much bigger than the uncles. The gentleman still offers etiquette advice, but the world has long since moved on to other languages. He still believes his soft power can replace hard strength, but reality demands working factories, not just good manners. If you want to understand why the gentleman still looks rich, look at his left wrist. There is a watch there worth a fortune. That watch is London. But the problem is, the rest of the body is slowly going numb. London today isn't just a capital city. It's a global office for the servicing of other people's wealth. It is a giant vacuum cleaner sucking money and talent from across the islands. If a billionaire needs to park capital, buy anonymity, or wash a reputation, they call the city. Britain stopped building factories and started selling trust and services. Lawyers, accountants, bankers, consultants. An army of people in white shirts making money simply by moving other people's money around. And here is the systemic gap. Britain is a country that manages trillions through London. Yet a young engineer in Manchester earns less than he pays for a one-bedroom apartment. The city lives at its own pace, trillions spin there, while lunches cost as much as a worker's monthly wage in Sheffield. While London sparkles, the rest of Britain, the old industrial towns in the north, is becoming a forgotten attic. Where steel mills once hummed, there are now only Amazon warehouses and cheap coffee shops. The country has split into a financial showroom and a rusty backroom. London has become a state within a state, finding it more profitable to serve a sheik from Qatar than to build a road to Liverpool. The gentleman is proud of his knowledge. Oxford, Cambridge, Eton, these names sound like incantations. But look closer. British education has become an elite export commodity. Britain trades on its past prestige, selling it to the children of new global elites. A British university today is more than a temple of science. It's a corporation. It targets foreign students who pay triple, while the local student sinks into debts they will carry into old age. This is an intellectual fire sale. We teach the world, but we can't find enough engineers to fix our own railways. Everything looks stable. But in Britain today, stability isn't growth. It's just the slow process of getting used to things getting worse and prices getting higher. Britain has turned into a country that trains the best talent for Silicon Valley because at home, all it can offer them is tradition and astronomical rent. It's brain drain, packaged in an academic gown. Brexit wasn't an economic plan, it was pure, unfiltered emotion. Imagine the gentleman reached a point where he felt insulted. The neighbors in his European neighborhood started setting rules, how high his fence should be and how he should sort his trash. And the gentleman snapped. He remembered 1954, a time when Britain was great without the air quotes, when the world seemed simple and clear. Take back control, became the cry. People didn't vote for trade tariffs. They voted to return to the cozy nursery of the empire. But reality proved harsher than a pub joke. It turned out that taking back control meant sitting in isolation under the rain, realizing your market is now too small for the big players. Britain wanted to be global Britain, but ended up as an island forced to choose between the trade dictatorship of the US or the manufacturing might of China. The irony is that those who shouted loudest about freedom were the first to feel the sting of rising grocery bills. Pride is a poor substitute for a growth strategy. The British character is built on restraint, the stiff upper lip. The idea that no matter what happens you maintain a calm face. This helped survive the Blitz, but it stops a modern economy from evolving. Humor works like armor here. A Brit can joke about his problems indefinitely. But eventually, a trap opens. You start to feel that because you laughed at the problem, you don't actually have to fix it. This leads to a national paralysis. Britain knows exactly who it was. The problem is, it has no idea who it wants to be. The country lives on inertia. It is afraid of sudden movements. It's afraid to build new homes for fear of ruining the view for old lords, leading to a housing crisis that suffocates the young. It's afraid to change taxes for fear of scaring the bankers. Britain prefers to fade away slowly with perfect posture rather than start a loud, messy renovation that might save it. It is a dignified, yet meaningless, suicide through immobility. Walk through Knightsbridge or Mayfair at night and you'll notice something strange. The lights aren't on in the world's most expensive houses. These mansions aren't homes. They are gold bars in the shape of bricks. Britain turned its land into a safe haven for money of questionable origin. While the gentleman talks about democracy, his capital has become a laundry for the world. This created a massive distortion. London house prices have detached from reality so much that the people who actually run the city, teachers, nurses, police, are forced to commute 3 hours a day because living in London is impossible. London manages global flows, but a nurse in a London hospital can't afford a room in the neighborhood she treats. This destroys the social fabric. The city becomes a stage where wealthy shadows own the walls and real life is pushed to the margins. The gentleman is selling off his garden piece by piece, cheering the high price, while forgetting that soon he'll have nowhere left to walk. If you visit London as a tourist, you won't see a catastrophe. But there is a quiet crisis in the details. It's when you pay first-class taxes but the healthcare system, NHS, once the pride of the nation, makes you wait 3 months for a doctor. It's when a train ticket costs a fortune but the ride is cancelled due to staff shortages, or the wrong type of snow on the tracks. Britain has become a country that charges a luxury price for economy service. This isn't an explosion, it's a slow cooling. Standard of living isn't falling off a cliff, it's sliding down a centimeter every year. The middle class discovers that a vacation in Spain is now a luxury, and the heating bill is a reason for a family meeting. A younger generation is realizing they will be poorer than their parents. And no one is screaming, "Help." Everyone is just politely enduring it because screaming isn't British. Britain tries to play the senior advisor in world affairs. It believes its seat at the UN or its military alliances make it indispensable. But influence follows the economy. Without working factories, cheap energy, and a thriving middle class, diplomacy becomes mere acting. The gentleman still keeps old maps where half the world is painted red, but his current role is that of a museum guard. He guards values he no longer produces. He lives on the dividends of his great-grandfather's fame. But dividends eventually run out when the company stops releasing new products. Stability is not growth. It is just the slow process of getting used to decline to the sound of the anthem. Britain is stuck between wanting to be a bridge between the US and Europe and realizing the bridge is being dismantled from both ends. Ultimately, any country is just a giant Excel spreadsheet that someone is trying to paint over with watercolors. Britain has a math problem. Budget deficits, an aging population, and infrastructure that remembers Queen Victoria. You can talk about the British spirit all you want, but when London's pipes burst because they're 100 years old, spirit doesn't help. The gentleman is used to things just working. He doesn't realize that machines require investment, not just a polite tap with a cane. Britain has started selling off the silver spoons to pay the heating bill, pretending it's just refreshing the collection. But the spoons are running out. Can a country built on the memory of greatness learn to live without it? The gentleman still stands at his window looking over his foggy gardens. He believes the world will eventually come to its senses and seek his advice again. He adjusts his tie, checks his pocket watch and offers tea to his guests. But time is cruel, it doesn't respect titles or past merits. Will Britain remain this polite master forever, too well-bred to admit the obvious? His era has ended. The castle doesn't need a new coat of furniture polish. It needs the rot torn out and a new foundation poured. Or will Britain remain the gentleman who is too polite to admit the truth, that he is no longer the master of this world, but merely its security guard, watching over the empty rooms of the past? This story isn't just about an island. It's about how easily you can become a museum of yourself if you don't trade pride for a blueprint of the future. Britain is a warning to all wealthy nations. The past is a great foundation but a very poor roof. And while the gentleman looks out the window, the clock on Big Ben keeps ticking away time that no longer belongs to him. If you like this video, click the subscribe button. Write about which country you would like to see the video. Thank you for watching.